Hi there, my name is Abali Malangel. My matriculation number is 1313117. Basically, my coursework is about discovering the HeartBleed vulnerability plus the IoT vulnerability. Before I carry on with my illustrations, I'm just going to give a very brief background because majority will be made in my report. The HeartBleed bug was a vulnerability that was discovered last year in 2014 by April, and it was recorded under the CVE-2014-0160. Now, this bug or this vulnerability was discovered in the popular OpenSSL cryptographic software library. This weakness allowed stealing of information protected under normal conditions by the SSL-TLS encryption used to secure the internet. We all know that the SSL provides communication security and privacy over the internet for applications such as the web, instant messaging, and VPNs, or for VPNs per se. The HeartBleed bug allows anyone on the internet to read memory from the system protected by any vulnerable version of the OpenSSL, and it's documented that any version that's below 1.01G in any Linux platform is vulnerable to this bug. Now, one thing about this bug is that it compromises secret keys used to identify service providers, web servers. It exposes data, it exposes usernames and passwords, as we'll be seeing in my illustration. And this leads to other vulnerabilities like discovering usernames and passwords in what we call the IoT, which is the Internet of Things. We know that at least most devices out there have IP addresses identified by MAC addresses, and for these devices to operate they need secure channels, which is provided for by the SSL framework. Now, the tools that I'm going to be using, Kali Linux, which has Metasploit in there. I'm going to be using the turnkey Linux, which is going to act as my web server. It's going to be running WordPress, and I'll also be using my host, which is my MacBook running on the Yosemite operating system. Now I'll use this to run Shodan on the command line shell, and I'll also access it through the GUI, that's through the search engine, to look at any vulnerable targets on the internet, but we won't exploit any of them because this is just for educational purposes. Now, on my Linux box, I'm also going to use the Nmap for your information, just to scan through the open ports on my target. Now, just like I said, this is my web server, and if I browse through the var directory www, so this is my WordPress directory. I'll just list the content and I'll cut the index file. It's based on PHP. I'll also look at the readme. Well, that's all I have. It's an HTML file, and that's what I'm going to be running. So this is it. I'll also just try and confirm the IP address. So as you can see here, my IP address is 109.246.86.175. Okay. Now my Kali. Yes, since I'm on the terminal, I'm going to browse the shares directory. Well, sorry. Okay, this is getting interesting. Okay, let me just run Emma from here. No, I'll still look for it. cd slash user slash shares directory. Oh, what's up? cd blah blah. Sorry, I had to go the long way. Okay, I'll go to the nmap directory. In nmap, I'll go to the scripts. Oh, ls later. Now, as you can see here, I have the engine that's going to scan through the HeartBleed vulnerability. So when I run my nmap, I'm going to run a script and attach it to the HeartBleed engine. Plus my target IP address, which is 109.246.86.175. Okay, as this is running, I'm just going to create another tab, Control Shift, and I'm going to start the database. Great. This is for the Metasploit. Start. Okay, I'm also going to start the Metasploit service. Metasploit start. Okay, everything appears green. Then I'll run the console. Console. Okay, I'll just go back to my nmap and see whatever results I have. Well, since it's one host we're scanning, it says that there's only one host that is up, and it looks through 2280.443. Now this is the port. This is our port of interest, and it's running the SSL. Actually, this is the port attached to the SSL layer, and it's scanned through the HeartBleed script. Here it comes through with an error and asks us to debug, but we'll bypass this and use Metasploit to give us further details. So as that is going on, I'll just get into a browser for my host. I'll just start a new browser here. So my target IP address HTTP is 109. Okay. Okay, I'm going to log in as an administrator. Admin. Password. Oh, sorry. Password, that's my default password to my WordPress. And basically this is my dashboard. I can create a new user, and I'm just going to say this will be Alan, or I'll call this user Obalim. The email will be obalim@obalim.com, and I'll skip this for now. I'll just give a password here. I'll give it 123. I'll say RGU 123. RGU 123. I'll make this an administrator and I'll create him. I'll also create another new user who would be more like a publisher with subscriber, and I would call this Uche. This will be uche@obalim.com. That's the domain, and the password will be Martins plus Shogun. I'll repeat, Martins plus Shogun. These will be subscribers. Okay, now since in my description I earlier said that the HeartBleed reads memory, whatever I'm basically doing is being held in the memory space on our web server. Everything has been loaded onto RAM, and RAM is basically the storage space. It's the primary storage space that is holding every content that the web server is processing. I'll basically log out as admin and log in as Obalim. Password was RGU123. Yeah, okay. I'll just maybe publish something. I'll be like, I want an A in this course. I need an A. Publish. Okay. My Metasploit is fully loaded. And when I use the auxiliary scanners, use auxiliary scanner SSL HeartBleed. I'll see what options are available. So I have a down filter. All these are the options that I have, but I'm going to use our host, so I'm going to set our hosts, and I'm going to put my target's IP address, which is 190.246.86.175. I'm going to set a verbose string so that I can see whatever is going on. Set verbose true. So I'm going to run this. So what's happening? There's an SSL handshake going on. Oh, okay, this is done. It's done this for me, but I'll just give a brief explanation. You saw it was consulting my target, and basically in this consultation it checks the heartbeat of the target. In the process it does the SSL handshake, and basically what happens during the SSL handshake, there are 4 phases going on, just like you can see here, they're listed. And the first phase normally is it establishes the capabilities of the client and server to see whether there's communication. Then phase 2 is normally server authentication and key exchange. And then phase 3 is normally the client key exchange. And there's also an optional client authentication but there's a client key exchange. And phase 4, which is the last phase, is normally the change of cipher specifications, and then the protocol finishes. That's where we have the nonce, which is a timestamp plus a random number generated attached to each session. And so when you look at this gives us information here that is a heartbeat which responds to the leak. This basically means that our web server is vulnerable to the bug. And when we look through, you're going to notice that it basically captures my machine and the OS version. Basically it maps it up, which is more like a footprinting. Of course, it maps the default browser, it maps the browser that I'm using to access my host or my target. So yeah, well, there's plenty information here, but what's very interesting is that when we come here, we look at the login. I have Obalim, which was the user I created. I have the email, which is Obalim at Obalim. This is encoded as a percentage by the @ at obalim.com. That's my fake domain. The first name, as you see, is all here, and my password, which is very interesting. Actually, this is now the purpose, this is the objective of my illustration. The password, it captures RGU123, and this is it, and the role is administrator. Well, this basically proves to us that my target is vulnerable to the HeartBleed because there's an exposure already. And interestingly, this information has been picked off memory and it's just been dumped. So this is vulnerability discovered, and I'll just basically talk of how this can lead to an escalation by an attacker. This can be done remotely, it can be done in-house, but in most cases it's done remotely because normally these are services that run on the internet, and all this is information that is running in the memory space. Yeah, if I'm to dump more information, I'm basically intriguing it to keep running and to keep displaying whatever content is in the memory space. So if I come to my, if I log out as a Balim, probably go back as admin. I can create another user, add user. I can call this user Shaun, and our username will be Shaun obalim.com. First name, password would be Jennifer, and probably this would be an author. So as that is running, I'll just check the information that kind of ran before. Okay, this is plenty information. Some of them is in ASCII, some of them is gibberish, so it would take time for someone to sit down and just decode line by line. But the beauty is that before you saw the password and the username that I used, in it was displayed in the clear text. That's a very big vulnerability, and that's as a result of the HeartBleed, which is a weakness with the OpenSSL cryptographic framework. Okay, now this has run. Ooh. Yeah, and for your information, when this information is being dumped, it's dumped in chunks of 64 Ks, 64 kilobytes. So that's for your information. You need to know that. Okay, so with this, okay, just log out as administrator. Let me go in as Uchi. My password was Martins plus Shigun. Okay, so I've logged in as that. So let me try and run an exploit here. So the same process is going on. The 4-phase handshake that the SSL go through is going on, and that's what happens. Well, I can try and see who is accessing what from my web server. Well, it's really finished so fast. When I come here, well, we have some more information right here, as you can see. This also basically has captured the other user that I created that was shown, and the email address was shown at balim.com. The first name and last name was now, and remember we set her password as Jennifer, and her role was an author. So this is very, very good evidence that this web server is very vulnerable to the HeartBleed bug, or to the HeartBleed vulnerability. And just like I'd said earlier, this could lead to other vulnerabilities like discovering things like the IoT. Well, I'll just go through here and launch my showdown. Sudo okay, that authenticates. Okay, let me just start by finding out what my IP is. Shouldn't my IP. Okay, I'll start by initializing. I need to get my key, and how I can get my key, I can get it online. So I'll just come here. Okay, this has really slowed down. So I'll just come here because I'm already logged in here on the web. I just need to get my API, which is right here. So I'll copy this. Okay, this ain't coming out clearly. Okay, this captures my IP address of this, and so when I go to the showdown hub, well, I can try and run some. So this is basically a reference page to the exploit DB, and this is the code, and this is the CVE registration code for the HeartBleed OpenSSL information leak exploit. And when I was giving a brief introduction, I just spoke something small about it, but I'll expound it further in my report. When I go back here, well, it shows me yet sources, and these are places I can get more information regarding this. But interestingly, before I summarize, I just want us to see something interesting here. Well, this is something in line with Internet of Things, and my internet has slowed down a bit, but we just want to see how the Internet of Things gets affected. So I'm scanning through webcams that are online, and this is some information that one can easily see. This is a live camera, and this is the age of the IoT. This is the age of the Internet of Things. I can catch its IP address, the country it's from, the latitude, the longitude, and this is the city right here. Now this is the effect of the Internet of Things. Just like I said, we're not going to run any exploits. We're just going to view because this is just educational. And interestingly, I'm going to close by this is in Bolivia. You can also do a random here, so you just get random cameras that are available. Last but not least, I just want to show you well, this is part of reconnaissance. I'm gathering information, and well, they say Shodan is the hacker's best friend. It's the hacker's search engine. Well, these are some of the default passwords that have been listed, and you'll be shocked that these passwords are still running on devices that are on the internet. I'll just illustrate with this, and but just like I said, we're not going to exploit any. Now, this right now is online. It's a video web server. When you type the defaults, you're into the server. Now this is a very, very big loophole. This is a vulnerability that anyone can easily exploit, run a payload, and this is where we are. This is the IoT. The other things to look at that are very interesting, like this. So basically this is it. This is it. Okay, let me just see this. Okay. This may take a while to open. For your information, some of these may be honey nets, some of these may be honeypots or sinkhole DNSs, just tracking people who are trying to have access into systems. So you can't tell if it's a real target, it's a live host, but just for your information, some of them could be honeypots. But if it's a real system, this is a vulnerability, and this is where we are, and this is the age of the IoT. Sorry, this is my camera. Just to discover and expose the vulnerability, and I've achieved the objective. And so basically with lots of information that anyone would really use to take it to another level. Well, this is showdown for you, and it's the Internet of Things. Thank you.